Welcome back, everyone, to Common Sense Choices, and I'm Linda Toupin. Oh my goodness, today is episode number 37. So if you're new to the podcast, pull up a chair and enjoy the conversation. For those of you who have been with me for all 37 episodes, thank you. It is because of you that our podcast is so popular. And you know what? It was my prayer before we started today that words that would be spoken today would lift you, encourage you, edify you, or even challenge you in this beautiful journey called life. Because God gifted you 168 hours this week. It came wrapped in a big present and you opened it. And what you spend on those 168 hours is what you get from this gift He gave you called life. And He gave you free will. And that is really the basis for this podcast. That's why it's called Choices. Choices is just another word for free will. Well, behind me is the mantra that started this whole thing. And if you can see, it's on a 7-foot piece of art. So you can say it with me. You're very familiar with it. I am where I am by the choices I've made, or I've allowed others to make for me. Deep cleansing breath in, cleansing breath out. I kind of just smacked you, and I know we just met. But you know what? If you woke up this morning and you were not excited about the direction your life is going, don't blame others. Don't blame your husband. You married him, or your wife, you married her. Or don't blame your children. Children are not born to fulfill you. And do not blame your boss. You choose to go there. And it is 2023, and there's a lot of different jobs that you could have today. Everybody is hiring. Well, today, we are so excited to finish up a series called When the Smoke Clears, Be the One Left Standing. Now, you guys remember in the very first episode, we met Greg Horn, who is a local resident to me here in Lexington, Kentucky, a fine Christian man who was a multimillionaire in his 30s. And because of a devastating flood and his business with no insurance, he went from that to honestly almost committing suicide, or at least thinking about committing suicide. So how do you turn that around? Well, that's why these people are featured, because they've turned their lives around and they developed this inner strength. And so he went on to inspire others because he is a Christian minister. He is a radio host. He has his own podcast called Hope is Here. And you all loved his episode. And then next we met Julianne Ortega. Oh my gosh, did you not love her episode? She came to America when she was, I think, 17, 18 with $20. And she built the American dream because she embraces the last 4 letters of the word American, I can. And so she was our second speaker. And today we're going to finish up with the woman who inspired me to even come up with the saying, when the smoke clears, be the one left standing. Well, before we get started, I want to remind you that you need to comment and need to share these episodes. Now, where are these episodes? They are on YouTube. They are on Facebook, Linda Toupin Common Sense Choices, YouTube, Linda Toupin Common Sense Choices. They're on Apple and Spotify, but the very best way, everybody say it with me, the very best way to get these episodes is to sign up at lindatoupin.com. That's up on the screen. Just head on over there, click the sign in button and sign up. It's absolutely free. And I'll think about you every time I release an episode, and I'll email it to you. Now, it's a 2-step system, guys. So some of you forgot the second step, and I'm sitting over there in your junk or spam, and I'm just waiting on you. Just sitting here waiting on you. Because you do need to confirm that you're going to get the episodes from me. All righty. Well, when you comment and share, your name goes into a drawing for something wonderful over at my store at lindatoupin.com. So it is time to announce our winner from episode number 36 with Julianne Ortega. So drum roll, please. Our winner is Melinda Colvin, Colvin. Melinda, congratulations, and thank you for sharing that episode. And you will be receiving a beautiful gift from my store. So let's talk about my store, because I made some big changes in my store. First of all, I think I've already told you that is how we support this podcast, that and my sponsors. All right. So in my store, I took it back over. And I brought it home because I wanted to touch every item. I'm a little OCD like that. And I wanted to make sure that you got a personal note from me and that it was exactly what you thought you was ordering. All right. And so the good news is, oh my goodness, you have been so receptive to this change. And now I'm ready to announce a new change. I have partnered with American people who are helping me create these products. Because I don't want you to just think, oh, this is helping Linda's podcast, but it's just coming straight from China. Well, guess what? You will begin to get with your order who is helping me make those. So for example, our socks and our brand new money bag or accessory bag, high quality, etc., they are printed by a wonderful family in Illinois. And I did a feature of her, and you'll get a copy of that feature when you order them. And her 8 children, you heard me correctly, 8 children help her in her printing business. So everything that you see over at the store now, you'll start to hear the backstory on that. So your dollars are not just supporting my podcast, they're supporting another American entrepreneur. Now, you just have to understand, I just am all fluffy because your magnet is going to come in a little velour bag. And of course, your magnet has our mantra on it. And then your money bags are going to come in its own velour bag. So you can literally give these as gifts. A lot of you are running these as gifts and promotions with groups that you're in charge of. Of course, we still have our coffee mug with our mantra on it. But our most popular selling item, guys, is the print. So you want the print in your children's room, in your classroom, your home, to remind you if you want to make positive changes in your life, you have to change your choices. So thank you for your support over at LindaToupin.com. Well, without further ado, we're going to introduce the woman who inspired me to say, because I said it to her multiple times, my goodness, Julianne, all these things happen to you. And when the smoke clears, you somehow are always standing. That is a really inspiring gift that you can give others. Well, you met her earlier this year when she was part of my cooking series. So let's meet her again. Julianne Nagle had a 35-year sales career. That's how I met her. She quickly, when she came into the company, she excelled at it. So there's going to become a pattern of success here. And she's going to teach you today and guide you as to what happens in her brain that helps her not only remain standing, but to be excellent. She quickly excelled to lead over 3,500 people in recruiting and mentoring some of the top leaders in one of the best companies in America. And you know what? She was in the top 0.001% of that company. She wasn't just in the company. She was at the top of the company for over 26 years. She was honored to have been invited to train and inspire people not only here in America, but all around the world, helping others excel and become more of their very best. And her passion is what drives her daily. And you'll soon see that in evidence. She retired from that sales career just 2 months ago, but she didn't let grass grow under her feet. You know, 65 is kind of the new 45, and you're going to live another 30 years. So you probably ought to be figuring out what you're going to do with those last 30. I'm sure you're not going to sit in a rocker on your porch. And you guys, like, doing nothing is not a game plan. Anyway, so Julie started her next career before she ended the other one. Probably is another trait of successful people. Julianne healed herself. And you heard that in the earlier episode on food. She healed herself from MS. From that, she carried from her other career the same passion for guiding others to become their very best. In 2018, she created and opened Utah's very first and only 100% plant-based, non-GMO, gluten-free, and 100% delicious food truck, mentoring and teaching other people how to transition from a very sad, I love that, a very sad standard American diet to a healthy, healing, plant-based lifestyle through a powerful live online cooking class. Yes, you heard me correctly. You get to hang out with Julianne Nagle, and she empowers others to become their own health heroes. Now, that's a thread that you're hearing in my podcast over and over. You hear it from the medical field. You better be your own medical hero, and you better be your own health hero. You got to figure it out on your own by taking control of your own health. Cooking live in her kitchen with you. Classes have already started, but you can hop in anytime. She says our health is a choice. and is at the end of our fork. I love that. Come join me just for the health of it. Would you all please welcome to my screen, if she will unmute, our very own special guest feature and the woman who inspired me to start this season, Julianne. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me, Linda?
We can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And I need to correct something. It was late when I typed my intro there. I've been with Mary. I was with that company for 35 years. I said 26. Where did it all go? So 35.
You know what? That's a good, it was 35 at the beginning. I thought, wow, that was really fast. Well, anyway, you're out in Utah, you're having snow, and we're having 70-degree weather in like, I'll take mine.
Yes, I'll come take some of that. I'm headed to Dallas in 2 days to go sit with my grandkids. So I'll get some of that sunshine.
Well, you know, our audience met you before, but many people are watching this for the very first time. You are currently single, and you take care of your mother who lives in your home, and you have a number of children and grandchildren. So will you acquaint us with your family?
Yes, my sweet mother. You see her on Facebook sometimes. She's kind of a card. Well, she is a card. If you want to know where I get my sense of humor, it's from my mom, and creativity comes from my mom and my dad. So Lenore is amazing. She's my buddy and my best friend. And then I have 3 kids. My eldest lives in Salt Lake City with my grandson, Kyler. So Chrissy and Kyler live here, and they are just 7 minutes from me. And Chrissy always helps me in my office, helped me in my prior business, helps me now. She's my partner on the food truck, and she thought I was crazy when I opened it. She still thinks I am, but we have a blast together. So, and then Kyler is an amazing, he's 23. So I have a 23-year-old grandson that is an amazing entrepreneur himself. And I know he picked up a lot of that from watching as he grew up in my other career, because it really instills that in people. And I was so passionate about it. And so he's an amazing human. And then my daughter, or my son, he's next in line. He lives up in Montana. And if you've seen on Facebook at all, go check it out. My little grandson, 3.5 years old, is shredding the hills, I think is what they call it, up on the snow with his snowboard. And a professional came on and said, that kid has already got the balance and the moves. And he's 3.5. The kid's amazing. And so Cassidy and his beautiful wife, Julie, live up in a little 120-year-old cabin up in the hills of Libby, Montana, right on the Kootenai River. And then they have a brand new little addition, and that's sweet Millie Ann. And she is just turned a year. I drove up there for her birthday party. And then I'm going to Dallas to be with my youngest, and that is Chelsea, and her husband, Jorge. And they have 2 beautiful children. Penelope is 4, and a little Shavi is going to be 1 next month, almost, right, in May. So I love going down there. I'm going down there to sit with the kids while they go on a staycation so that mom can get some sleep.
Well, you have a rich, full, rewarding life. And I think a lot of times people look at successful people, whether it's financial or just they seem to be happy and balanced. And of course, social media tends to bring that out. But there's a lot of people who are watching this that know you and know you from afar. And what's really special about you is the fact that I know a lot of backstories. And the average person on the street, if they even had one of the things that had happened to you happen to them, honestly, I think they'd just be on meds, and they'd be in bed most of the time with a sheet over their head.
Well, I was on meds for a while, let's be clear.
But, you know, I mean, that's why, 20 years ago, I looked at you and said, Julianne, you're the only person I know that when the smoke clears, you should be gone. You should be done for, but right. You're standing and you go on to inspire others. So why don't you take us on a journey, first of all, into just a few.
Okay. Now, let's not waste all that time going there. So
a few of the things that have happened to you, because I know that you have analyzed this, and this is important for my audience to hear, because not only is Julianne's going to tell you her story, she's going to tell you what creates that strength and that attitude, that winning attitude of I will not be defeated. So let's just start with the stories, Julianne.
Okay, that's a big list. Well, first of all, I want to just say when you asked me to share on this, the person I am now absolutely knows what it is and how you do it. But I was reflecting back on my younger self, and I thought, where and when did I learn to become that person that is still standing and that gets knocked down and, really pummeled, and time after time in my life. But in my early years, Linda, I was so negative. I was not the person that anyone sees today. I was super negative. I actually was a self-hater, and who could hate me, right? But me. So I was a self-hater. I was severely depressed. I was on heavy doses of antidepressants, and I had suicidal tendencies numerous times throughout my younger years. And so fast forward, I got into an amazing career surrounded by amazing individuals. And that was a real huge, huge eye-opener for me, because that is not what I had been surrounded around. Now, I will tell you that life has given me a lot of different little challenges. And so you asked me to just give you a few. So I will do that, because otherwise I know everyone has other things to do today, because I could keep you here for a while. But time after time, life hands me those challenges. And so I have been married and divorced 4 times. My 4th husband, during a really critical pinnacle point in my career, I'm moving for a huge promotion, he held a gun to my head, and then he tried to blow up my home, and he threatened to kidnap my youngest daughter. I had spent most of my time during that qualification period in court trying to obtain a protective order. So while that was all happening, I was going through some very painful, grueling tests. And then I was diagnosed at that same time during that same qualification with multiple sclerosis. And then I needed to really wrap my head around that diagnosis. For my own perspective needed to get changed before I could take on anybody else's perspective. So I never told anybody. So I was going through all of that by myself in my own head and my own heart, which I look back now and I should have gotten some sort of a medal for that, but I got an amazing promotion. And so I just would encourage you right there as a lesson is you've got to fix your perspective on a situation before you talk to other people about it. Because when we start bringing other people into it, you kind of look like Dorothy and Toto in the hurricane, and the bikes are swirling around because everybody's got an opinion and they're telling you what to do. And that's the only thing you focus on. So that was a big one for me. And I am really oh, sorry, Linda.
That's okay. If I can just stop you right there, I just want to say amen. Yeah. Amen to, I see this in people. And even though it's like, I know you said, I was going through all this, I wasn't sharing it with anybody because I needed to get my own perspective right. Because I think people fall into 2 camps. They either do that or they do the opposite, which is let me go tell everybody what's happening to me, because you're exactly right. People will give you their opinion. In my first divorce, true story, I had only been married a nanosecond. And so I knew right away when I, got out on this was not really what marriage was supposed to be. And so I rode to school every day with someone who was my very best friend. And one day I got in the car and I said, don't pick me up here tomorrow because I'm moving. And I told her where I was moving to. She said, why? I said, because I'm getting a divorce. And it was the exact same reason, Julianne. I did not want her opinion. Nope. I didn't want my parents' opinion. I needed to get clear. I need to fix my perspective, as you said. So I just want to amen that.
And that is so true, because what we might have thought was bad, others can tell you horror stories, right? And they tell you it's going to be worse than you even imagined. And so I was with the MS and everything, I already was devastated by that. But I didn't want to hear everybody else's stories. I had to get my perspective, and I'm going to share it further on that perspective is everything in life. I'll tell you that. So I really am grateful, Linda, though, for all the above things that I just shared with you, because it prepped me for what is the biggest so far life adversity and gift that was given to me. In 2014, I was crushed by my 1,300-pound horse, not just once, but I think God wanted to slow me down. So he had Harley not just land once, not twice, but 3 times. I was in a near death when I was repeatedly told in the trauma 1 ICER that I probably would not live. And if I did, I most assuredly would not walk because my body was crushed that desperately. So it resulted in 5 surgeries, 5 hospital stays, and 3 surgeries, 5 hospital stays, and 5 months in a care center. So my pelvis was rebroken and rebuilt twice. And I can't even begin to go where the pain was. It's unexplainable and you don't even want to know. And then when I retired on stage, this was my latest one, retired on stage, I fell and snapped my kneecap. And just 5 days before I was supposed to be on stage. Well, on top of that, and that was in front of thousands to celebrate, my 35 years. And then went on stage and was on stage in a big old brace and a wheelchair again and crutches. And so you just have to laugh because here I am. Oh, I forgot too. 12 hours before I was supposed to catch my flight, my mom climbs over her rails. Where do I get my determination? I don't know. And she climbs over the rails in her bed and falls, breaks her wrist and her pelvis. And I have to figure out how to get her into the hospital. Does she need surgery? And then get her into a care center. But I still showed up on that stage. I stood standing on that stage in that brace and crutches and wheelchair once again. But I made a joke out of it because you know what? If you don't laugh at you, the rest of the world is. So you might as well join in. I'm just saying. So that's some of it. I don't know. We don't want to really go too far into all my list.
No, I think those things alone, 4 husbands, 1 that puts a gun to your head in the most important time of your life, tries to kidnap your child, and MS, and a horse that lands on you 3 times and crushes you. And I followed all that from a distance. And honestly, I mean, there was prayer groups that were like, Julianne, she's done. She's not. So my audience, can you see why I'm always saying to this woman, you shouldn't be here. So you are here. So the average person watching this has had bad things happen to them. Right. They really have. And they may even be as bad as yours. Okay. Or worse. But you have come out inspiring people. I mean, your gift, your God-given gift is inspiration. You have a theme for everything. You make everything fun. You make people think new thoughts. You're an incredible energy giver. It's like my prayer I say before a podcast, I want to edify, lift, encourage, and challenge people. That is so natural to you. So tell the audience, in your opinion, because you said the younger version of you didn't know why you could survive, but this version of you does. So take it away.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you some magic keys and then I'm going to give you a strategy plan because as goofy as I sometimes seem and I am a strategist. And so I'm a numbers girl. And so I am going to help you see the strategy that I came up with. So I am still standing because I believe that victory over any situation is decided and achieved before you enter into them. Now, I want you to write that down because it is absolutely true. If you wait till you're in the situation to figure out how you're going to handle the situation, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So it is how I choose to view the tragedy or the tough time that I'm going through and how I choose to go through it. So it is a choice. And most people get sucked into the muck and the mire and cry their lives out, tell everybody, post it on Facebook. I don't understand that posting thing. Nobody saw my broken knee till I was in a very expensive jacket on the stage. And so nobody knew that. And so I think that that's a really big one. Choose how to view the strategy and the tough time, and then choose how you're going to go through it. And that'll determine how you will come out on the other side. So I guess that's my ninja power. I'm not quite sure. So it's kind of like if you don't have a fire escape plan for your home. So I'm going to give you a fire escape plan because with a plan and a strategy, you minimize the loss and the trauma. And with no plan, well, you're kind of stuck there and you're going to be consumed by the fire and you will definitely not be left standing. And so I definitely recommend the plan. So what happened is now I have gone through these life challenges. I have to tell you that I am healthier mentally, physically. I am more centered. I'm more grounded. I am ever so much grateful for every little thing in life. And I'm so love-filled. I'm more spiritually connected, and I get really still every day through meditation. And I focus on catching myself when I get all spooled up inside. And you know, we do, because we watch too much social media and listen to all the stuff that's going on in the world. And we all get all spooled up inside. And I do it. You said that deep breath. I do a lot of deep breaths constantly throughout the day, and especially caring for a 94-year-old with dementia. And so I do that to get regrounded. I believe truly that I have angels and guides that help me and that kept me here through those falls of that horse, because I wasn't supposed to live. And I'm ever so grateful for that. I focus on listening for guidance from those guides and those angels, because I know that I have more that I have to do. So first of all, I want to define challenges and adversities, because Webster defines adversity as when circumstances or situations work against you. Okay, well, Julianne Nagle defines adversity as a beautiful gift. It is an opportunity to grow and become a better version of me. You know, I figured that I am came down as a block of marble, and life just kind of chips away and chips away and chips away. And it is how I go through it that it ends up as me, the me you described. So the trick is the gift that is hidden. It's hidden behind the wrapping of what the appearance of the situation that's hard and painful and unpleasant looks like. And we don't see any way out. And that's what we start focusing on. And it doesn't look like this beautiful gift. It looks more like a white elephant that nobody wants, right? Well, I'm going to tell you something that I've really learned in my life. Words matter. I call all hardships, tragedies, and challenges adventures. You'll never hear me call my horse accident. I correct people when they call it that. I call it my horse adventure, because adventure means that it's exciting. It's got its ups, it's got its downs, it's got its swirls, it's got its spooky parts, it's got its happy parts. So everything in my life, the fall where I broke my knee was in another adventure. And it paints a different picture when you change the way you word things, and it'll change the way you view it. And so that is one of the keys for me. So Linda, let's be clear. I did not always see adversity as gifts. I was very, very negative. And if I ever had a failure and I didn't make a goal, I held that failure up and challenge up and problem that happened as it was a trophy. And the reasons that I didn't succeed, well, I blamed life for everything. And I never, ever, ever looked in the mirror of how I was dealing with it, because it was the easy way out then, because I could just stop where I was in that progression of that goal. I could quit, and then I'll just change the goal to one that seems a little bit easier. And so I was not that person. I was not that person all along. Well, one day I looked around and I saw all these amazing people. And finally, I made a decision, and I decided to be the one that was still standing. So I changed my perspective of adversities. I did see them as a gift to unwrap and to embrace with gratitude. And I underlined that in your mind and bold it, gratitude for what had been gifted to me. All the things that I had saw as adversities were truly, truly gifts. When we can find those huge, huge lessons that are tucked inside life's struggles, but we do have to dig deep. You know, there's that story of the little boy there's a pile of poop, and the little boy's digging through the poop, and he's digging through the poop, and he's digging, and everybody says, what is he doing? And the little boy turns around and he says, if there's this much poop, there's got to be a pony. And so he's digging for that pony. And that honestly is what I chose to do with all the poop. I was going to find me a pony. So it is all about the awareness, you guys. I talked about being aware earlier. I think I went through the first half of my life unaware, because when the horse and I had an adventure together, I was 57 years old. So it really is all about awareness. If I could share and leave one golden nugget with you, awareness, 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 and the process during life's challenges. It's like having a plan of how to get out of that house fire. If you do have a strategy, you minimize it, and you minimize the loss and the trauma. If you don't, you're going to be consumed, you guys. That's all there is to it. So here's my fire escape plan. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. I believe that this is what keeps me from getting burned, and it keeps me standing, Linda, and growing, not just standing, but growing through all the gifts that I've been given that have changed my life, and ultimately they saved my life. Number one is be fully present. Be aware in each and every moment, good or bad, of what's going on. Become aware. And then we can learn the lessons that are contained within that gift. If we aren't present, it's because people are always living in the past with regret, or they're living in the future. Well, when things get better, then I will have a better perspective on things. But right now, so I really find it odd that, and I did it for all those years. I lived in the past of regretting every mistake I'd made, decision I'd happened. I never once regretted that going on that horse ride. And yet I had a premonition not to go. And I remember dropping the pin in the trailer door and said, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be good, but it's going to be okay. And I never have regretted going, because I wouldn't be where I am, who I am, if I hadn't gone for that ride. So quit living in the past and quit looking to the future to when it gets better, because you're not even living life. You're totally missing. People miss the opportunity for that growth, because it is wrapped in being present in the adversity. Some people spend their entire life bouncing back and forth through past and future, and they actually miss out on creating a life in the current moment. And really, I found out that day on that hill that is all I really have. That's all we all have, is that moment, this moment right now this moment right now. We are not guaranteed the next. So be fully present and revel in it, whatever it is, poop or good, whatever it is. Number two is be consciously grateful in every single situation, good or bad. I'm not saying that you have to be happy about tough times. I'm not Pollyanna, well, kind of, sort of, but I'm not saying that. But being wide open to the situation with a conscious attitude of pure gratitude. I'll tell you, it changes everything. And everyone's life, in your life, benefits from the way you choose to go through it. So my grandson, my 23-year-old grandson, he came and they drew the short straw and had to come live with me for 2 years because somebody had to come live. And yet it changed his life for the better. He was running with a bad crowd. He's the most amazing young man and has got such an amazing career, and they keep promoting him. And he's the youngest person in the entire company. But because of who he was around and how I went through what I went through, he is a different human being. In my horse adventure, I have to tell you, I had some very bleak, dark times, and a lot of self-pity would pop up. And then there was the anger that happened, and the pain again was unbelievable, especially when it was late at night. And so I would start feeling sorry for myself. I mean, that's terrible. But I admit it, I'd start feeling sorry. And so I had to get back, and I had to stand back up, even though I couldn't stand. So I would page my CNA because I couldn't walk, and I'd have her lift me into my wheelchair. And then I would wheel myself to the trach ward. And I would sit and I would listen to those machines as they went shh, shh. And my heart literally broke for those sweet souls that were on the other end of those machines. And I reached out to them through my heart and my prayers, because they were tethered to those for the rest of their lives. And I became so humble, Linda, in those halls on my little journeys. And I became so filled with gratitude that I could move my arms, that I could lift my head, and that someday by day I was going to walk. I grew in so many ways those nights in that hallway.
Wow.
And after I left from there, and I can still see it, I can still feel it, I can still see in the day those people that were attached to those. I am a better human because of that pain. I am so much better. Okay, composure. Number 3 is keep the lessons and let the experience go. hanging on to a challenging experience by talking about it like we talked about and mentally reliving it over and over, it is toxic. It magnifies the experience and it becomes all consuming. And that's what your life becomes. And that's what I did in my early years. That is who I became, is all the negative stuff in my life. It anchors it in further into your thoughts. And then it heightens the emotions that you feel about it. And then you get stuck there. And you're just stuck in that Dorothy and Toto tornado. Well, we want out of the burning house. So we must control our thoughts and our speech and let the experience go. So focus on the lessons, acknowledge them, and share those. Keep a growth journal. I have journal after journal after journal, and I never really journaled. I made an attempt to because everybody said to, and so I wanted to be part of the in crowd, but I never did it. But when I had that huge growth opportunity that God gave me, I kept journals ever since. So keep a growth journal from each gift that you're given. I keep the journal, and it's the greatest way to purge the experience onto paper and not on people. People don't want to hear all your stuff all the time. I'm sorry. You know, a lot of people want to hear about my horse adventure, but they really don't want to hear about all your stuff. And then they're really kind of sick about hearing it on the 100th time. And so just purge on paper and not people, and document the lessons so that you can retain them for the future. You know, I go back through my journals, Linda, when I'm sitting in my quiet time, I review them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that blessing that happened. I forgot. And so really, and what a blessing those are going to be for your children. Now I will tear out the bad pages, but before they get a hold of them. But, and then the fourth step in our getting out of the burning house is just build a bridge and get over it. And then keep those lessons and then let the experience go and move forward to life's next gift. Because I will tell you, it is coming, and it'll probably be a bit tougher. Mine all are, so yours I'm sure will too. But with each one, you know what? I am better equipped because of the last ones. And so you do have to learn to laugh though, because they'll come at the oddest times. And if you can kind of adapt that laughter, and in the care facility in the hospitals, and when I was going through the divorce, nobody knew I was going through it. I didn't talk about it. So I was still joy-filled and full of laughter and motivating people. And I did so in the hospital. My CNAs still come here every year for Christmas in the care facilities. And I want to get all the nurses and doctors and everybody that took care of me, because it took a lot to put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. And they never get to see the after. Have you ever thought of that? Those docs never get to see the after. My doctor did, but not all the nurses, the people that swept the floors, and people, none of that. So that's a big thing, is everybody that's in that needs to have that laughter, that instead of all the sadness that perhaps you're going through, or the anger, like in my case, I had anger. So with each of my life's challenges, I simply repeat that 4-point fire escape system, Linda. That's what I do. And therefore, I'm always standing. But here's the really cool thing that I found out. When we handle life situations the same way over and over, we actually rewire our brain. We can actually change the structure of our brain. We all think that our brain is just the brain we were born with. Not so. We can change it by what we think and what we say and our actions. So it becomes totally automatic. We have an automatic response to when we have tough life situations, like the horse hit me in the head, the body, the legs, everything. But when it hits you, you're trained. You have this response to tough life situations, and you don't even need to think about it. When I got hurt, I was making the paramedics laugh. They had to cut off my shirt, and I had a skull shirt on, of all things, right? When I go for that ride, I had a dead skull shirt on my that was crazy, t-shirt. But they went to cut off my shirt, and they were all panicked because they took 45 minutes to find me. And so they were like, oh my gosh. And that started to make me nervous, because I was calm on the hill. Luckily, that's what saved me from bleeding out. But when they got there, they're all panicked. And my natural instinct, as much pain as I was in, was how to deal with this. And so I said, excuse me, but could you please cut my shirt off along the seams? Because I would like to sew it back together when we're done. And everybody froze. And they did just that. All the heavy, scary, now I was scared. I said, I wasn't scared till y'all got here. So if you could just chill, that would be great. And let's be happy. Let's talk about things. It's beautiful. I've been watching the sun. And so it's automatic in me. And I was in so much pain. Again, I can't even describe it. But you don't have to worry about it because it will just kick in. And the scientific term for it is automization. And that's a fact, isn't it, Linda? That's a real thing.
Well, okay, I'm so blown away. I've taken too many pages of notes here, but you know, everything you're saying is what my audience is familiar with when it comes to the crease in the piece of paper.
Exactly.
People say, well, that's just the way I am. Liar, liar, pants on fire. You learn to think that. Someone trained you as a baby and a child to think that. I just didn't know it had a word, automization. But you know, by the fact that you already knew before the horse landed on you, how you were going to react. Had that horse landed on Julianne 30 years ago, would you be alive today?
I would not be standing. I would not be here. I went through that. And I'm emotional about it because I'm so grateful. I'm not emotional. I had one of my friends in my previous life. She went off and became a psychologist, and she handled trauma patients. And so she came to me one day and took me to lunch, and she said, I'm here for you. I said, I know, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. I was still on a walker at that point. And she said, I now handle post-traumatic. And I said, that's great. I said, you must be helping so many people. She said, well, I'm here to help you. And I said, with what? And she said, well, you must wake up at night. I know Harley. He's huge. He's 17 hands tall. He weighs 1,300 pounds. You have to be so scared. You must wake up screaming. You must have nightmares. You probably just... What? I said, me? I said, no. You know, when I was so excited on my birthday, my daughter had arranged, because my horse was at, he was at a little spa, horse spa, for the times that I was in the hospitals for those 5 months since the adventure. And so my daughter arranged to have a surprise for me. And that was to bring my horse home. And my therapist was in on it. So he had me in the other room, which we never went in. I couldn't figure it out, but oh well, doing my therapy. And then my daughter came in, and then my therapist pushed my wheelchair out, and I could see my horse out the window. And he was pawing at the ground, throwing his head, wanting me, and I was wanting him. And all I yelled is, get me my crutches. And I got up on those crutches and went down the stairs. I don't even remember doing it exactly like Tristan had taught me, but I got down. And the first thing I did, my daughter's like, Mom, don't get too close. Don't get too close. I said, I just want to smell him. I just want a hug. And I got right next to him, and he always puts his neck around me, and you've seen on Facebook, he'll pull me right into his chest. And I was home. I definitely wasn't afraid. And it's so funny that if we don't learn how to go through life's experiences like this and be aware and have that automatization, then we are crushed, and our soul is crushed, our spirit is crushed. Fear arises, fear takes over. And I'm not afraid of horses. I ride him. You know, he's growing, he and I are growing old together. He's getting old, and you know, he's got arthritis. And so we just kind of limp along together. But I am not afraid of him. And I'm not afraid of going riding or anything like that. Now, my kids are afraid if I go riding. They don't want to do all that over. But, you know, I'm not. So I want to take you on I want to share a story with you if I can. My dad and mom, you know, I cared for my dad and mom, you know, when they were just kind of getting in their later years. And so I would take them on these little adventures. So one time I took them on to a museum, and it had all these big stairs, and we went upstairs and we'd gone and looked at all this artwork. My dad kept touching everything. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to touch that, but so we walked through, and then we needed to use the restroom. So mom and I went into the restroom, and then we heard, oh my gosh, Linda, it was deafening. We heard this horrific bam, 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 bam on the wall right next to the restroom. So I go running out, fearing that my dad was falling. Now, there was an unmarked door right by the men's restroom. And so I opened that door, and it was pitch black. But at the bottom of 50 very steep stairs, there was my dad at the base. Well, I ran down to him, and he was slumped over. His arm, it was hanging on the railing, and I was so scared. I can't even describe it. I knelt down in front of my father. His head was bowed, and his eyes were closed, and his hands were all bloodied. And I said, Dad, Dad. And he slowly opens his eyes, looks at me. And I said, don't move, Dad, because you could have broken your neck and your back. Just wait, because help is on its way. Just wait. Then my dad raises his head slowly and says, I think I'm okay. Just let me rest for just a minute. Then my 85-year-old father with dementia, Linda, said, I'm okay. And he sat up straighter, and he quietly said, do you want to know how I'm okay and why? He said, it's because I know how to tuck and roll from all my years in football. We practiced that over and over and over again. So when I started to fall, that's what I automatically did. And
That's amazing. That
saved his life. So his brain, Linda, was wired to tuck and roll. And when he was about to get hit, he knew, tuck, roll, down 50, and the stairs were like unbelievable. But the automization told his body exactly what to do to protect him in that moment. And the amazing part to me is he had dementia, and yet his brain still responded. That is how powerful our repeated thoughts and words are, the good and the bad. My dad got up, and we walked out to the car, and we sat down, and I said, okay, well, let's get you home. And he goes, hey, no way, you promised me lunch. And so he was the one that was still standing against all odds. So I think I come by it kind of naturally.
Well, we know that to be a fact. Well, for my audience today, I'm sure that you have taken as many notes as I have. I mean, it's just incredible of choosing how to go through something and having that fire escape plan. And I loved, that'll probably be the clip I pull from this when you talked about the definition of adversity and your definition of adversity, and that it's a gift. That was so perfect, and how powerful our words are that matter. And because, the fact that you call all these things that happens to you adventures completely rewires the way you think about them, and it paints a completely different picture. And then the 4 steps of being fully present, and how people are missing so much of their life because they're either regretting their past or they're looking to the future in hopes that it gets better. Be conscious and grateful and humbled in your story of that room, and hearing those machines, and understanding that you had so much to be grateful for, and then keep the lessons and let the experience go. I've never heard you use the sentence purge on paper, not on people. I'm like probably going to tattoo that somewhere. And then 4th, build a bridge and get over it. Well, before we end our podcast, and what a blessing you've been, people will say in the comment section, I'm going to listen to this over and over and over again, because it becomes automatic for them to think like Julianne does. And that would be the biggest gift I could give everybody today, is for you all to think like Julianne thinks. Can
I share one last thing that I wanted to leave with them? You know that humans are the only creatures that are blessed with 2 perspectives of life. We have the perspectives of situations as you enter them, and that's when we get to choose, like you said, how we view it. And then humans have the opportunity to have the perspective from the situation after you are through it. Other creatures on Earth don't do that.
No.
So we get to review the lessons, and we get to look back, and we don't have the trauma or the angst. We just have the growth if our perspective is correct. So perspective is everything. And multiple perspectives, I will tell you this in closing, is that they actually can shorten the time that you have to be in that situation. And it makes it bearable, your perspective. So understand how important perspective is in every aspect of your life. And like with dealing with my mom, I look at it from her perspective, not mine.
Right. Well, you are on a new adventure, and we want our audience to know that they can be part of Julianne's thought processes on a regular basis. First of all, tell us where all they can find you, and then tell us about your, most people will connect with you through your cooking classes. Of course, we know you have a food truck in Utah,
Yes.
but cooking classes are probably the best way for people to be in your space on a regular basis.
Yes. So you can go to Garden, Veaten, VEATEN, .com. So just go to gardenoveaten.com, and the website will pop up, and there will be the Taste of Change. There's the classes up there. It'll just say Taste of Change, and it'll say cooking classes underneath there. Just click on that, and it'll take you to the landing page of that and explain it all to you. But I do cook live here in my kitchen, and you are cooking live in yours. Last week was the first one in our 9-week series. People were eating it up, I should say. And so it was a lot of fun. And so you're building your kitchen tools and all the spices and pantry, and your knowledge is the most important thing I want to impart to you, is how did I heal myself from MS?
Well, thank you so very, very much. That seems like a kind of a lame thing to say to you, because it's so life-changing. And again, once more, I'm drawn right back to the very first time in a convention center somewhere far, far away, where I knew where I was sitting on the left-hand side of the room when I heard you speak with the same passion that you're speaking with today, but probably today with a lot more wisdom and a lot more depth that came from all of these adventures that you've been on. Not only have you been a blessing to my audience, but you are always a blessing to Linda Toupin's life. And I thank you so very, very much. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for being part of Common Sense Choices. Oh my goodness, wasn't this a great series? And I can't wait to read your comments. And then also head on over to lindatoupin.com. 2 things you're going to do over there. Sign up so you never miss another episode. And then also check out my store. Anything that you're buying over there is not only supporting my podcast, but it is supporting another American entrepreneur. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening.